Today, we're going to talk about how to run an amazing discovery call, a call that gets your buyers super emotional so they know they have to have your product. Let's do it. Hey, it's Matt Wolach, and I help software leaders understand how to generate a whole ton of leads, close those leads, and get an amazing valuation. If you want all those things, definitely subscribe to the channel right now. Hit the subscribe button down there and the little bell. That way you'll be notified of all my upcoming stuff so you won't miss any of it. And definitely stay tuned till the end. I've got something really cool to give you. I want to make sure you have that in your hand. Today, we're talking about discovery calls. I've had several questions where people have asked me, how do I run the call? Because Matt, you've told me about mistakes that we've made in the discovery call, like this video here. You've also told me about questions I should be asking in the discovery call, like this video here. And of course, today we want to know how to run the call. Well, that's a good point. So let's talk about it. I'm going to give you step by step how you can make sure you run a fantastic discovery call. Now, first things first, why discovery? Well, if you don't understand what discovery does, let's talk about it. Discovery is really important within the sales process. This is where you're asking your buyer all kinds of questions to understand more about them. See, if you don't know anything about your buyer and you just start pitching your product, you might tell them things that they don't really care about. And you're going to spend time on stuff that doesn't mean anything to them and they don't even think about, and it's not even a concern. And if that's the case, then they're going to get bored. And if you eventually do cover something that they care about, well, they're probably already bored and they're already falling asleep. You don't want that. So we have to be able to ask them questions so we know what to talk about, so we know what to share with them that's applicable to them. If you have followed me for a little while, you see my perfect deal process. Without the D in discovery, you can never do the A in associate. You'll never be able to associate your product to their challenges. So how do we run that discovery? Well, the first things first, you want to make sure you have a good process. You want to have some questions ready to go. So don't just say, oh, I'll probably ask something about this. No, you should script out questions, things you know you need to ask. What kinds of questions should we ask? I follow this formula, and I hope you can do it too. So first things first, we need to know about their current situation. What's going on now? This includes things like metrics of how many of this do you have? Maybe you need to know how many team members they have so you can quote it. Ask that now. Maybe you need to know what size the company is, either employees or revenue, so that you know if they're a fit for you. So you want to be able to ask what's happening right now. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is, once you've figured out what's going on now, then we need to get to what do you want to have happen? What are your goals? Where do you want it to be? If this is the current, where should it be? So you need to ask questions about goals. Where should it be in a year? Where should it be in 3 years, 10 years, whatever it is? Start asking them what they're looking to accomplish and why they reached out. Of course, they say the goals aren't very big. Ask them, well, why do you need us? Why do you need this product? If you're not really putting any big goals out there, what is this doing? We have to be able to get those goals. And by the way, we need the goals to be exact. Don't just let them say, oh, we want to grow. You need to figure out by how much, by when. And that's really important. Think about it. Let's say that after a few weeks after you have the call, you've called them, you're emailing, you're trying to follow up, and they're not really listening. One of the really cool things you can do, by the way, nobody does this will differentiate you. One of the cool things you can do is follow up with their goal. Hey, remember you said that you needed to grow 20% in the next 6 months? Are you on track for that? Oh man, I can tell you they're probably not on track. They're going to freak out. And those types of follow-up questions, they get amazing responses. So there you go. I just gave you a great nugget. Go ahead and start using that. So we've got the current situation. Then we need to figure out the goals. Next, what's the pain? What are the challenges? If you told me you're here and you need to get to here, why haven't you gotten there? Or why do you need something to help you? What's the problem? So here's the biggest part of the discovery process. We need to understand what the challenges are. Why do they feel like they need a solution to get there? Why can't they get there themselves? A lot of you might be saying, well, I don't want to make them think that they're going to get there themselves. They're not. They're talking to you because they don't feel like they can get there. But you need to understand exactly what the problems are. Ask them, hey, if you get to that point you talk about a year from now and you didn't reach the goal, why? What happened? What were the things that came up that made it not happen? Tell me now, and let's fix it now. Let's solve it before we get there. And so they're going to start telling you all these things. So getting this pain is really important. You need to have that. And even bigger than that, you need to make sure they feel their pain. You need to make sure that they know how bad the pain is. So help them understand that the situation is dire if they don't fix it. So pain is really good. Next, we want to figure out if they're a decision maker, right? Everybody talks about this. We want to talk to decision makers. We don't always have the chance to talk to the decision maker right away. Sometimes it's main contact. Sometimes your contact is not the decision maker. So how do we ask that question? Well, if you just ask, are you a decision maker? That's kind of bold and a little bit of an affront, and people won't like that very much. A much better way to ask it, what is your decision process? When you've bought other things in your company like this, how did it go and who was part part of that. And now they're going to be able to tell you, oh, I look at it first and then I need to take it to Steve. Who's Steve? Well, Steve's the CFO. He's got to make sure it fits the budget. Then we have to take it to Jenny. Oh, who's Jenny? She's the CEO. You make sure she's okay with it. Okay, cool. You're starting to figure out who the decision makers are. And it helps you understand not only the decision maker, but also the process, so you can help guide that process later on. One other thing you need to figure out in terms of the people, not only decision making, you want to make sure that this is the champion. If they are going to be your champion, are they going to be the one within the organization who's going to help you push this through the organization? Figuring that out now on this discovery call is very important. You also may need to figure out budget. Now, one key thing here, so many people are going to tell you, make sure you figure out budget. Do they have budget? Do they have budget? Well, guess what? A lot of companies don't just budget stuff for your software. They don't have that in the budget. Depending on who you're targeting, it's not going to be there. Now, of course, if you're targeting government, if you're targeting education, like big universities, they have to have it in the budget. But other than that, many of them might not have it budget. So if you ask, do you have a budget for this? They're going to say, no, not really. So it's not going to really work. What you need to do is figure out, can this be afforded or can it fit into what they need to do financially? And the way to do that is to really understand, is the problem bigger than what your cost is? And usually 5 to 10 times bigger than what the cost is. How do you do that? In Discover, you ask the right questions to help them understand the size of the problem. You can even calculate it with them. So once you do that, now you don't even have to ask budget. If their problem is 5 to 10 times bigger than your cost, you're good, because they'll see your cost as replacing that 5 to 10 times bigger problem. Last thing that we want to ask in Discovery, timing. Is this a now problem? Is this a later problem? Obviously, we want it to be sooner rather than later, but it's really important to figure that out. And at this point, you might also learn, are they under a contract currently? And are they just preparing for some future date where their contract ends? You want to know all this stuff in Discovery. You want to figure all that out. So you want to ask timing questions here. So there we go. We went through all the different pieces of Discovery so you can start to put together the questions that fit for you in your market, for your product, in your industry. I hope this really helps. By the way, if you want to make sure that you're closing a lot of deals on your calls, you want to make sure that your demos and your Discovery calls are crazy good, so you start closing at 70, 80, 90%, then definitely check out my course, Software Demo Secrets. This is a course I put together to give you my knowledge on how to close demos at very high rates. So our close rate is 81%. My company, when I was running a software company, 83%. I use specific things that I share with you in this course. You're going to learn exactly how to get people really emotional, exactly how to get them so they buy quickly and often. Software Demo Secrets. The reason we call it that is because there's a lot of software salespeople at the very top who keep all this information in. They don't share it. Well, I don't care. I'm going to share it with you. Go check that course out. There's a link in the description. That's going to really help you understand how to craft your demo, how to put it together, and get people to really want your product. I hope this helped. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on anything else. And if you could do me a favor, if you made it this far, hit that like button. That shows me this is good stuff. And that way it also tells other people, hey, this is something that they might want to see as well. I really appreciate that. This is Matt. I appreciate it. Take care. I'll see you next time.